chapter 13. Saul was years old when he began to reign. In 2 years he reigned over Israel. And Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash, in the mount of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeath Benjamin. And the rest of the people he sent every man to his tent. And Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines that was in Gabah. And the Philistines heard of it, and Saul blew the horn throughout all the land, saying, Let the Hebrews hear. And all of Israel heard say that Saul had smitten the garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also had made himself odious with the Philistines. And the people were gathered together after Saul to Gilgal. And the Philistines assembled themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen. And the people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash, eastward of Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, for the people were distressed, then the people did hide themselves in caves, and in thickets, and in rocks, and in holes, and in pits. Now some of the Hebrews had gone over the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead, but as for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. And he tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. And Saul said, Bring here to me the burnt offering and the peace offerings. And he offered the burnt offering. And it came to pass that, as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. And Samuel said, What have you done? And Saul said, Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you camest not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines assembled themselves together against Michmash. Therefore said I, Now will the Philistines come down upon me to Gilgal, and I have not entreated the favor of the Lord. I forced myself, therefore, and offered the burnt offering. And Samuel said to Saul, You have done foolishly, that you have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now would the Lord have established your kingdom upon Israel forever. But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath appointed him to be prince over his people, because you have not kept that which the Lord commanded you. And Samuel arose and got him up from Gilgal unto Gibeath Benjamin. And Saul numbered the people that were present with him, about 600 men. And Saul and Jonathan his son, and the people that were present with him, abode in Gibeath Benjamin, but the Philistines encamped in Michmash. And the spoilers came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned unto the way that leadeth to Ophrah, and the land of Shual, and another company turned the way to Bethhoron, and another company turned the way of the border that looketh down upon the valley of Zeboim, toward the wilderness. Now there was no smith found throughout all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, Lest the Hebrews make them swords or spears. But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines, to sharpen every man his plowshare, and his coulter, and his axe, and his mattock. And the price of the filing was a pim for the mattocks, and for the coulters, and the forks with 3 teeth, and for the axes, and to set the goads. So it came to pass in the day of battle, that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of the people that were with Saul and Jonathan. But with Saul and with Jonathan his son was there found. And the garrison of the Philistines went out unto the pass of Michmash. Okay, let's go back up here to verse 1. Now we'll remember from yesterday that Samuel had given his speech, and they had gathered at Gilgal to anoint Saul the king, and they made Saul king. Now, verse 1 begins, Saul was, and it gives some dotted lines here, so we don't know how old Saul was. He was a certain years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 2 years. He reigned over Israel. And 2, once again, God wants you to witness this, and this would be the time that would witness of the end. And Saul chose him, verse 2, and Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeath Benjamin, and the rest of the people he sent every man to his tent. So Saul's picked him out 3,000 men out of all of Israel. 3 means this is complete. And we notice here that he's divided them into 2 parts. He took 2,000 with him, and he gave Jonathan 1,000. Now these 2,000, God once again wants you to witness, and 1,000 is the fulfillment of God's prophecies. The 1,000 he gives Jonathan is the beginning of the fulfillment, and Jonathan means God is given. So now God has given the beginning of the fulfillment through Jonathan. And verse 3, and Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it, and Saul blew the horn throughout all the land, saying, let the Hebrews hear. So Saul has sounded the warning now. This one that has died, that's what the blowing the horn means. He's sounded the warning throughout all the land. And he's told, let the Hebrews hear. He's declaring a day of independence against the Philistines, those that have drifted against God's word. And we see here that Jonathan, he has smote Geba. Geba means the hill. And this is where the Philistines had been, had their garrison there, their stronghold or their fort there at Geba in the hill. And all Israel, verse 4, heard say that Saul had smitten the garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also had made himself odious with the Philistines, and the people were gathered together after Saul to Gilgal. So all the people have come with Saul. They've come following Saul to Gilgal again, and Saul has smitten the garrison, or his son Jonathan has, and it's come out through the land, and it's made known, and they've made themselves odious here, or they've made a little stink with the Philistines, and the Philistines ain't happy about it, and a lot of people in the land aren't, because the Philistines now are going to make war. And the Philistines assembled, 5, themselves against, they assembled themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash, eastward in Bethaven. So now the Philistines have gathered them up an army, a pretty good sized army, these 30,000, being those that were dedicated. 30 is dedicated, and 1,000 is going to be divine fulfillment. So these are those that are dedicated to this divine fulfillment. 6,000 being the work of man. 6 days you shall do your work. So this is your labor, and this is the labor that shall be fulfilled. Well, we see the army, though the foot soldiers were as many as the seashores. This is a great multitude of army that has come up and gathered against Israel here at Michmash. Michmash means it's hidden and almost forgotten. And Bethaven is the house of vanity, or this waste. 6. When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, for the people were distressed, then the people did hide themselves in caves and in thickets and in rocks and in holes and in pits. So now that Philistines have come out against Israel, they're scared, and they're hiding themselves in these strongholds that they made when the Midians come out against them. And these are the caves and thickets and rocks. They hid everywhere they could hide. 7. Now some of the Hebrews had gone over the Jordan to the land of Gad and to Gilead, but as for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. So Saul, he was still in Gilgal, this place where God had the children of Israel circumcised with the stone, and the people was following Saul, but they were scared to death. And some of the people had done crossed over the Jordan, these waters that descend, and went over into the land of Gad and Gilead, where the other 2.5 tribes of Israel were. And he tarried 7 days. And we'll remember, verse 8, that Samuel had commanded Saul to go and stay there for 7 days. until he come down and would make sacrifices. And this is where we're at. And he tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So Saul's been in Gilgal for 7 days now, and he's waiting on Samuel, but Samuel didn't show up as he said he would. So, and the people are beginning to go away from Saul, and he's been waiting on Samuel, and the people are getting tired of waiting. 9, and Saul said, bring here to me the burnt offering and the peace offerings, and he offered the burnt offering. So now we see Saul has took on the part of doing the priest's work and bringing the offering up and offering it now, and we're going to find out this is a mistake, because what this means, this burnt offering that he's offering up is to make this work presentable to God. Of course, this is a sign of the end, how this king makes an offering, and it is not going to be acceptable to God, because it wasn't the appointed time to make the offering. And it came to pass, 10, as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. So as soon as Saul gets done making this offering to God, Samuel shows up as soon as he's done, and Saul runs out to meet him. And 11, Samuel said, what have you done? And Saul said, because I saw that the people were scattered from me, that you camest not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines assembled themselves together against Michmash. So Samuel didn't have to tell him what he did. He asked him what he did. He said, what have you done? Saul done knew he'd done something wrong, because God had done told him the moment he'd done it. And he knew already in his heart, and he went ahead and confessed, because I saw. And what's he talking about? He offered the offering. He offered the offering out of time. And this would be a sign of the false understanding that would come, this false king who would come in the beginning at the false time. 12, therefore said I, now will the Philistines come down upon me to Gilgal, and I have not entreated the favor of the Lord. I forced myself therefore, and offered the burnt offering. So Saul's given his excuse here. He says, I thought the Philistines were going to come down here to Gilgal and attack me. So, and I hadn't entreated of the Lord of what I should do. He says, so I forced myself to do this thing. And Samuel said to Saul, 13, you have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord, your God, which he commanded you. For now would the Lord have established your kingdom upon Israel forever. And we'll remember, Samuel told Saul that you be to do just what I tell you to do, and he didn't. And he's not done what God told him to do, or what God wanted him to do. Or God says, I would have established your kingdom forever, but 14, now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath appointed him to be prince over his people, because you have not kept that way, that which the Lord commanded you. And this is an example of God is going to once again take the kingdom away from one who he's given it to and give it to another. 15, and Samuel arose, and this is the prophecies of it. 15, and Samuel arose and got him up from Gilgal unto Gibeath Benjamin, and Saul numbered the people that were present with him about 600 men. And this 600, these 6 is the labor assigned for judgment. So now we've moved into the judgment part. See, God is going to begin his judgment on Saul, and this is the part of the prophecy we're going to move towards. 16, and Saul and Jonathan his son and the people that were present with them abode in Gibeath Benjamin, but the Philistines encamped in Michmash. So we see Saul and Jonathan have gathered themselves in Gibeath of Benjamin, and this is just that hill, that high place of the son of my right hand, or my work. And the Philistines had encamped in Michmash, or this place that was hidden. 17. And the spoilers came out of the camp, out of the Philistines, in 3 companies. One company turned into the way that leadeth to Ophrah and the land of Shual. So the Philistines are coming out of Michmash now, and the companies are splitting up to go their way to begin to set themselves in array for battle. And they've come out in 3 different companies, and one went towards Ophrah. Ophrah means a fawn, like a baby fawn deer, female. And Shual is a burrower, like an animal that burrows holes in the ground. And one company's turned and went towards the land of Shual, 18, and another company turned and went towards Beth-horon, and Beth-horon is the house of the hole. And another company turned the way, the border that looketh upon the valley of Zeboim toward the wilderness. And Zeboim is mottled or variegated colorings, and it has to do with like dyeing colors of different colors in to show a mingling of not trueness. 19. Now there was no smith found throughout all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make them swords or spears. So the Philistines had ruled the Israelites for a long time, and they didn't allow them to have any blacksmiths or anybody who could make weapons or anything. And so there wasn't no blacksmiths found in Israel. 20. But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen every man his plowshare, and his coulter, and his axe, and his mattock. So if anybody wanted anything sharpened, they had to go down to the Philistines and pay them to sharpen their tools, their plowshares, and their cultivators, and their axes, and their mattocks, and any tool that would need sharpened. 21. And the price of the filing was a pim for the mattocks, and for the coulters, and for the fork with 3 teeth, and for the axes to set the goads. And we're going to see now the price. There was a price for having this work done, and the Israelites would have to pay the Philistines to have anything sharpened or honed, because they wasn't allowed to have the tools that they could do it themselves. The 22. So it came to pass in the day of battle that there was neither spear or sword found in the hand of any of the people that were with Saul and Jonathan, but with Saul and Jonathan his son there was found. Now, so nobody had a spear, nobody had a sword, but Jonathan and Saul. And this is the king and his son. Jonathan is Saul's son. The spear represents the truth of God, which we carry as a sword, and the spear is also that which we can thrust with the hand and use the word of God. 23. And the garrison of the Philistines went out unto the pass of Michmash. So now, Philistines who were camped have come out and went out this way that goes up to Michmash, and it says they've split into 3 companies, and they're going to go and they're going to set themselves in battle against Saul. And Saul, we find that he has made his mistake. He has offered up sacrifices when he wasn't supposed to offer up sacrifices. And we're going to find out what God does about this right here. We done see God warning us that it's going to be completed, and the prophecies of the work that's assigned for judgment now are going to begin. Okay, we're going to go to chapter 14.